In this lesson, we're going to discuss how to hold the violin. Many of my students know that I'm a stickler when it comes to posture. If you'll permit me, I'd like to be a stickler with you as well, because posture is everything when it comes to violin playing. Well, almost everything. Without proper posture, you don't have a good foundation, and it's very easy to develop bad habits, which are very difficult to correct later on. So I'm very careful with my students, both young and old alike, to develop at the very beginning, from the first lesson, a most natural and comfortable way of holding the violin as possible. Let me just begin by giving you a disclaimer. Violin is not a natural instrument, so to speak. You know, piano players and cello players to a degree have it easier. The reason I say that is because when you go down to the piano and you sit down, your hands, well, they're not raised, but I want you to see them in the camera. They're touching the keys in a way where your arms are just kind of hanging, and it's very natural to do that. This is, a motion that most of us have done many times in our lives for all kinds of things, whether it's sitting at a table and, putting your hands on it, or anything else you can think of. Cello, for that matter, you're playing up and down with the fingerboard. Or rather, I should say up and down. This is the hand for the fingers. And that's natural too, because, well, you have gravity to help you. The violin, on the other hand, is quite unnatural, because, well, the violin's under our jaws, and we've got this motion where you have to have your hand like this. You have to really hold it up the entire time. And although it shouldn't feel like you're physically working hard to hold it up, you still have to be in that position. And when you play, the motion is very much based on bringing the hand toward you and away from you, and even slight rotation of the forearm in a clockwise manner. But that's for later. In the meantime, let's just concentrate on holding the violin. So, in order to learn how to hold the violin, I'd like to first teach you something called rest position. I'd like you to stand facing the computer screen, or your iPad or iPod or whatever you're using, directly toward me. I'd like you to put your feet completely together. I know you can't see my feet, but you'll just have to believe me that they are completely together. And then what I'd like you to do is take your violin, put it underneath your right shoulder, and bear in mind that I'm a mirror image of you, so things will look backwards, so to speak. Then what I'd like you to do, keep your hands both on each side of your body and your arms completely relaxed. Now, of course, you'll have to cradle your violin, so obviously you need to have a little bit of care that your violin doesn't fall off your body. So your violin is held snugly. Your arm should be resting across the tailpiece. But you shouldn't be pressing hard or anything like that. Just let it rest. Then what I'd like you to do, put both of your feet apart. I'd say at shoulder width. Shoulder width length is very sufficient. Next step, feel that you can have like maybe a bouncy feeling from left to right. You don't want to bounce, but you want to feel that you can distribute your weight evenly on both sides. Then what I'd like you to do, wave to me nice and high. That means you're relaxed. Make a little hungry crocodile, maybe a big crocodile, and this crocodile likes to eat violins. Now we're going to grab the violin with our jaws, crocodile jaws. Now I'm going to do it first, then I'm going to tell you what I've done. So don't worry, there's a lot of time to practice this in this video. What I've done is I've grabbed the violin with my thumb across the top of the back of the neck. And for those of you who have seen my video on the parts of the violin, I've grabbed it on the bout of the violin that is away from my body. If you remember, the bout is here. There's one there and there's one here. We want the bout that is away from your body, not the one that's next to your body, but the other one. Just do that. Now, I used the word grab. Grab is not really a good word. I'd like you to place your hand over it, because we don't want anything tight or clenched or anything like that. But you do want to, hold the violin, obviously. with your hungry crocodile. And if you look at my hand, it's just my fingers are over the fingerboard and over the strings. And the thumb in the back is across the top of the back of the instrument. So, keeping your violin in this position, the next step will be take that violin out, hold it right in front of you. Right in front of you. And then we're going to rotate the violin. Now keep in mind, I'm doing a mirror image of what you're doing. So let's go back to the beginning position. Rotate to your left. That's counterclockwise. It's not what you might think from looking at the video. Let's rotate again so that the button is almost facing the ceiling. I can't get it all the way facing the ceiling because my arm doesn't rotate that much. Yours probably doesn't either. But just bring it in as much as you can. And then we're going to bring the violin in. Now that should be the most natural position for you. Now keep in mind something. Your violin might be slipping off, might be going all over the place. If that's the case, you need to see a professional. That's what a teacher is for, but that's also what the violin shop is for. And I'll tell you why. You probably need an accessory or two. We talked in the discussion on the parts of the violin about the necessity to have the proper shoulder rest and chin rest. And as I said before, and I went to great pains saying that chin rest does not go where your chin is, it goes where the jaw is. And that chin rest needs to fit along the contour of your jaw. And we all have different kinds of jaws and shapes of faces. So I'd like you to find the chin rest that works for you and the shoulder rest as well. And at the violin shop, if they're good, they should be able to help you choose what you're looking for. Don't leave until you've found the right fit, and make sure they can help you, because sometimes it's hard to know what you need. Sometimes even asking your teacher to come might be well worth the money and the time. So that's how to hold the violin. We're going to do it quickly one more time, just to review everything. So we have feet together, violin under your right shoulder, feet shoulder width apart, having a little bit of slack between both feet, both legs. Hungry crocodile, after you wave. Then we chomp lightly on the left bout of the violin, which is the bout facing the ground. We take our violin out gently, put it in front of us. We come around counterclockwise with the button almost facing the ceiling, and we come in. And that's all there is to it. Now your violin should rest on the collarbone, or the clavicle, also known as. If everything is good, you should be able to let go of your hands. Let go of the violin, I should say, with your hands. And the violin should just rest there. I have my kids, my students play, hold the violin 30 seconds. They have no problem doing it. They can even walk around the room. But when you're doing it, make sure you do it over carpet, because you don't want to drop it by accident. If you did drop it, the violin probably will be okay. You'll probably catch it in time, but just try not to do it over a hard floor. So that's our lesson on how to hold the violin.